All right. Hey everyone, and possibly Ian Storms. We're a third derivative, and we're here to talk about a lot for nothing, interesting. But one of the first things we want to mention is that this is a really difficult project that we did. I think every one of us went above and beyond, and to be fair, it only started because, we thought it'd be funny to win a challenge and get some credit, woo. Of course, things didn't go that way. If it would, I wouldn't be here, talking about this. So, like, the thought process was very simple. We thought that there has to be a reason that institutional data traders are like, fight so much for, being so close to NYSE. And after a bit of reading, we figured out that maybe HFT was the way, and HFT can make you a lot of money. So knowing that, we were just like, HFT seems fun. Like the hardest part is just getting data, right? Like it can't be that bad. But yeah, we learned a lot. So, like I said, we do HFT mainly because if we get high frequency data, we exploit the theoretical zero transaction cost, which we didn't. And we trade at really high volumes because we have no transaction costs. We would get really high returns. Um, we did try paper trading. And we also read around on research papers that talk about this, and we are like I was talking about like 200 or 300% returns here. So it seems like the best way to go with it. Um, and yeah, people do create HFT portfolios, but like I said, in institutional retail traders like have an advantage because of the lightning quick like speeds that is required to get lower pricing on the market. Um, yeah, well, there you go. Um, and initially we didn't decide to consider transaction costs, but later on we figured it was necessary because, like I said, otherwise it would be very unfair. I mean, that's it. And minute data was less of I would say that we were considering lower lower period for data for data. But there's a lot of issues with both the trading speed and also all of the XGBoost testing that we have to do later. We will talk about that later. And initially, we would have been fine with um, Y Finance, but over time, we realized that Y Finance was super inconsistent. The fact that it was open sourced by a random guy who doesn't put that much effort into keeping the data set clean is another issue. And the worst of all, it can be very inaccurate sometimes. And we thought of alternatives. This is when, I mean, first of all, we went through WRDS, which is the Wharton.
The
Actually,
Wharton.
Tanya, yeah, Tanya, you would probably be better to explain this. Actually, go
Yeah,
for it.
so as Steve kind of mentioned, I'm just going to hop in briefly. We started out using Y Finance, but we felt that it had a few limitations. Um, and so we were investigating other data sources that we could use for our project. The Wharton Data Research System, which is backed by the University of Pennsylvania, was one source that we did consider just because they had so many options for us. Um, but we didn't feel like it was the best option to use. If we're going to pretend to be actual investors and traders, why don't we try and use the tools that they use as well? So that's where we turned to Polygon. I met Friday morning with Ian Storms from their sales team, as a student, just to discuss like options for using their API. Um, Basically, when I met with Ian, I talked about who we are as USC Viterbi students and Dornsife students. And then we also just talked about what our project would be doing. And he was pretty impressed with this idea of it being a machine learning backed tool, which could make predictions about the market. And also, when we were discussing why we wanted access to Polygon, because we weren't satisfied with what we were seeing with Y Finance, some of the things which came up were the fact that Polygon has better data quality, and there's a reason that professionals do trust it. It just has more accurate data feed, especially for US markets. And we also felt that It provided the data faster than Y Finance did. Also, it had comprehensive data coverage, which Y Finance wasn't offering us. And in general, when you think about reputation, Y Finance has been known to be getting blocked because, like Steve said, it's not really an official source.
Hmm.
And if you were a serious trader, you probably wouldn't use it because it's pretty unsafe for building critical infrastructure or like algorithms that
Yes.
need to trade real money. And also like when it comes to reputation, a lot of developers actually choose to use Polygon in their projects. So this just helped emphasize why we wanted to use this tool over Y Finance. So after talking to Ian, he did see the value in what we were doing, and he offered us a 5-day free trial of the API. He mentioned that typically he would have asked us to write like a blog post of some kind. But in lieu of that, he did say like if we were up for it, we would send him our demo video, which is what this is. So Ian, if you are seeing this, we are so grateful for the tool, and we do hope that you see the potential in what we've done so far. So
Hmm.
thank you.
Yeah, and as the other person that was supposed to arrive but couldn't because of personal issues. Hi, that's me. And yeah, like I said, I I really appreciate it. It made like our lives a lot easier. And yeah, it's also super nice to use. So that's that. There's also a lot of stuff we can talk about, and I think there's a small time limit that we have in mind, but I guess there's just way too much to talk about for this like short timestamp, and I'm not like prepared to talk about it. I really hope that later on, if I have the opportunity, I can expand on it. But for now, just know that all three of us did so much research that I wouldn't say we're experts on it, but we learned a lot, and it was a nice experience to have. Anyways, I think choosing the predictors, there's nothing really cool about it. We use normal stuff, MACD, RSI, and Bollinger Bands. They are effective for a reason, right? Like classics, but they're good for what it is. And everything below here, we can probably talk about later. So for now, I think it's better to show how Polygon works to begin with, and then you will see why we make the decisions we make.
Yeah, so as Steve said, I will go ahead and share my screen. If you want more details about the documentation that we've shown you guys, you can find it in our persistent submission. Um, so essentially, we wanted to understand a little bit more about how Polygon worked and what kinds of data we could pull from it. And also, just because we aren't experienced traders, we had a few questions about how trading worked and what kinds of data we would be able to pull. So, this is how we access Polygon through Google Colab. We did have to use an API key provided through our Polygon dashboard. Um, so one thing that we did kind of realize is that we would be seeing missing values, especially if you're looking at data at the end of the day, data at the beginning of the day. So one thing that we did want to take a look at was how many missing values would we be seeing per stock. And we did kind of notice some stocks which are more popular and get traded more often had less missing values than the stocks which weren't as popular. So that's something that we did have to keep in mind when collecting data. Additionally, another thing we wanted to think about was if you're trading at the beginning of the day, would you be seeing more lines of missing data? Is it better to make trades maybe 30 minutes after the market's open? What does that kind of look like? So we did a little bit of experimenting by keeping it only within regular trading hours and only looking at the close price. Um, that's a little bit of what this data looks like. We just tried to look at what was happening exactly at 9:30 a.m. to see how many NANs we would be seeing, um, how many NAN counts we would get throughout the week, for each stock. And again, we saw that some stocks were seeing more missing values than others, and that was just something to keep in mind. Like as you can see, NVIDIA had no NAN counts at 9:30 a.m., but then something like Netflix had a bunch. So that was something that was actually interesting to us because we didn't think that certain stocks like Netflix would be seeing so many missing values as well. Um, Additionally, because we're using Polygon, we can actually pull some other kinds of data. So we were just playing around with the API to see what exactly we could pull. Some examples are like open, high, low, close, the volume, VWAP, and the transaction data. So that's just what that looks like for the ch stocks that we chose in our portfolio. And then we also wanted to see like one question that Steve kind of had was, when volume is zero, what does the volume weighted average price look like? When that's zero, what does the volume look like? So we ran some experiments on that just to see what kinds of data we would be pulling, or and also like how many NANs we would be seeing. Um, and then also like we were wondering if changing the multiplier from 1 minute candles to 5 minute candles would help us reduce the number of missing values we would have in the data. So that's kind of what this experiment was taking a look at. And again, we were able to see how many missing values we were pulling per stock, and some stocks were pulling more than others, which was something to keep in mind. And then I'm gonna stop my screen share and pass the floor to my team to talk about XGBoost and the other stuff we worked on.
Yeah. So I'll just share my screen. Could you see my screen? Uh, awesome. So yeah, so so after looking through the data from Polygon, so finally we decided to choose each 5 minute interval and for 60 days. And we only chose the um, close column prices to help predict if we are going to buy, hold, or sell the stock. So basically, as we have written in our documentation, we have chosen three predictors. So the first one is MACD, that's the moving average, which basically is the difference between two different timelines. So this helps take in consideration the crossovers from a buy and sell. And then, so we just calculated MACD for the stocks that we chose. And then our second predictor was the Bollinger Bands. And this helps take in consideration the volatility in the market. And so we calculated Bollinger Bands for all the stocks. And lastly, we calculated the RSI, which basically states the magnitude of the price changes and takes in consideration the magnitude and the speed of how fast the price is changing. And so again, we calculate the RSI based on its formula. And after that, we researched a lot on certain thresholds based for our side. If it was lesser than 30, it's oversold, so you would actually buy the stock. And if the RSI is greater than 70, it's overbought, so we would sell the stock. So basically, we research these numbers that are commonly found after thorough research. And after getting these thresholds, um, we calculated whether the stock is going to be bought, sold, or held. And so using these thresholds, so we calculated if the stock is bought, hold, or sold. And those are the labels which we're going to be now using in our predictor, that is the XG boost. So basically, from MACD, RSI, and BB, we got three labels. And so we're going to get the maximum vote. So if two are buy and one is hold, the label is going to be buy because the maximum label is buy. And so from the three predictors, we did maximum vote of the label and got the label for each stock. And so this is the voting system where we took the max vote of all the three to choose whether to buy, sell, or hold. Now here we just did a pie chart based on the labels that we got, and we could see that it's a bit like an imbalanced data set where most of them are hold and then some are sell and some are buy. And so we're going to address this in XGBoost. So now comes XGBoost, where we're going to help try to predict for the future stocks, whether we should buy or sell or hold. And so we use the XGBoost classifier, which basically is the ensemble of many decision trees. And we use the time series split because this is a time series data. And we also took in consideration of um, we also took in consideration inverse frequency weights. So this is again to decrease the overfitting that might occur because of the imbalanced data set. As we could see, we had so many whole samples and less of the buy and sell samples. So this inverse frequency weights is a kind of regularization that we did. And then we performed cross-validation, and we use the time series split cross-validation um, feature that's present in the Python library, and then calculate the XGBoost. And so finally, uh, we got these recommendation values weekly. So for the latest prediction was for most of them it was hold. For Bank of America it was buy, and for Meta it was sell. So this is the latest prediction for the last week. So we made the test data such that the test data is only for 1 week, while the training and val is the rest of the days before the last week. And so yeah, this is what we did in this code. So this was just based on the three predictors that we took in consideration, but there also comes the domain knowledge. As a person who has knowledge of trading and stocks, so that these predictors cannot take in consideration. So we need to actually have a balance of both domain knowledge and the machine learning model. And so that's what now Steve has incorporated and integrated both together to help us get the prediction and see if we gained a profit or not. So now I'll be sending it to Steve now. Yeah, I'll just stop sharing. Yeah. Oh, I think you're muted.
Oops, my bad. I was saying that we may you may or may not have seen a glimpse of how it goes, but oh, well, okay, I shouldn't do that. Um, but before that, I think we should talk about the other half of the work that we did before we combine everything together. It's going to be here. Yeah, 6 versions, and yeah, there's a reason for that. So on the other end, we also considered like I said at the beginning of this uh, video, I suppose, we want to be fair, and so we decided to read around and look for a lot of trading platforms. What we ended up realizing is that Alpaca is super nice. I'm not sure why, but we have a lot of like this is actually a really nice race, especially as we're trading on really expensive stocks with high liquidity. So that is what we ended up doing. And the rest of these are like entirely organic. We argued about a lot of these, but uh, it's I, I wouldn't know how to explain this on my end because I'm not that great at explaining. But I think the idea on what I wrote is I set up a buy in and sell out like system where this is where we will be setting like our buy-in rates. So one of the ideas behind these is that we want to use set buy-in rates instead of like dynamic purchasing like stock count. And this stems from the idea that in high frequency trading it's about the volume. And so we want consistency. That is why we like set buy-ins. And this is why this is consistent. Um well, this is printing, checking the stock value. I think this was, yeah, this was just intentionally written this way. This is where we would be implementing Polygon, which will be here. This is where we inject data um, by fake here. Initially, we didn't understand, like, we had an idea for what fake words was. Turns out it's just rolling window back testing. We couldn't find a word for that. So a lot of what fake seems like would just be, you know, we want to back test later and we couldn't find the words for it. So these are just getting the signals. Buy signal, sell signals will be shown below. Transaction cost, nothing special. Are they down here? Oh, there we are. So we calculate MAC, like the most common predictors, and then we update the features, and we use these features to decide whether we buy or we sell, which is where, yeah, as you can see, this was the test version was very messy. We didn't even count for pyramids. But basically, yeah, we would buy and sell based on how the outputs of uh the predictors tell us. And this is Rob this would seem like an edge case in a normal data trading system, but for us, because we consider high frequency trading, there's a lot of fluctuations. And this goes back to what I forgot to mention earlier on how massively different like high frequency trading is compared to day trading. I think Nerali would probably have a better edge on me on this, so please jump in if you can. But for day trading, a lot of it is based on like long-term value, right? Like you
Yeah,
probably know better. Yeah, you can go ahead on that
yeah.
actually.
So like, so again, so for short term, like if the stock value goes down, so it means a lot. So the person might want to sell. But in long term, even if it goes down a bit, it doesn't matter because you're gonna keep it for like a month or a year. And so that's why if you choose high frequency trading, your predictors and the way you're going to, calculate the profit changes as compared to if you're using
Hmm.
long-term trading. Yeah.
Hmm. And that is also why for HSD in particular, this is actually a very important function. I would say this is more important than half of them, in fact. And it's hard to quantify this, but when we try to overload this, we lost like 4% in 1 week. It was not a nice experience. We never did that again. And yeah, this is just the actual trading version, the initial trading version where you, like I said, this is why we're saying it's just back testing. We're assuming that this is a really strong assumption, by the way. I should preface with that. The assumption is that all of the stocks are hyperliquid. And by hyperliquid, I mean there's no slippage, or in other words, if you buy 100 stocks, those 100 stocks will be sold at that exact price with no change. So in real life trading, more often, very much, oh my God, very much more often than not, people send up like their own stocks to sell, right? And there will be very slight differences, and that's what we call slippage. So maybe I want to buy 100 stocks at $90, but someone will sell it for 89.99. Someone will sell others for 90.01. And technically we have to account for all of that, but because we're technically backtesting and paper trading, and there's nothing to test against, we decide that we will circumvent this as much as we can by picking the highest, the most liquid, yes, the most liquid stocks, or in other words, the stocks with the highest volume. We will go back to to the shoot, I forgot. I'm sorry. To the documentation to look at the predictors, and I'll try to explain. Sorry, the tickers, and try to explain why we decided to choose them. Um, there's a lot more here, a lot more to dos. We can't. I personally haven't figured out how to do margin trading yet, and I think this is a big problem to our teammates too. And this is something we did do. This is just, yeah, stop loss. And then it's just trading predictors. Nirali already gave an amazing presentation on this. I'll just skip. This is just like, just a slight rewrite of this. Some of them are more advanced. Like I said, it's pyramid buy is also a very important part of our work. So we can bet on the fact that when the price goes up and when we predict the price goes up, we can add money into, like, the stock. I mean, that is not something you will ever do in day trading. Noralia said it. They play much more for consistency, but for us, it's about getting those getting those slight leads and then banking on the fact that we will make hundreds of trades a day. And the rest are code. Nothing too special. Um, a lot of people are reaching out for me. And then the trading bot. I think the trading bot was not, yeah, this was a really like starting version where we were waiting for Tanya in particular. She did an amazing job helping me understand how to like even incorporate Polygon. And he actually made a really good point I should mention too. Forward filling and backward filling is also another issue. This is also why we have to choose high volume data, because sometimes for some stocks we figured out that if it's not high volume, we will have a lot of like, so there's some stocks where, okay, so you probably have heard her saying that we start like the stock market starts at 9:30 to 1600, but we only trade from 10. And part of the reason why that happens is because we want the data, like we want that half-hour buffer to stay there, so just in case no one trades in the first half hour. And for a lot of less like volumey tickers, that is the thing. So that's just another reason. It's also convenient. So that's that. Anyways, coming to the actual version, the final version, the cool one, I think, or not. Um, one of the really cool one of the really cool discoveries that Tanya and Nirali, both of them found it independently. I don't even know how, but they found out that there's actually something called volume weighted average price. And that's just price. I mean, it's just a better representation of the market than close is, or open, or high, or low for that matter. So that's what we're gonna pick. This is also another reason why Polygon is amazing. This is Clay's Ian Storm, so you see this. Thank you. But VWAP has been amazing, and we use that. We fill it with forward backward fill, as I mentioned, and that's just calculating, stuff. Nothing special. And here comes the cool part. Nora, you wanna talk about XG Boost? You probably know a bit more too. Or well, I can go with it.
Yeah, so like it's just like an ensemble of decision trees where they're put in a sequence. So basically this helps one tree like erase the errors that was brought from the decision tree before it.
Mhm.
And so that's how it helps minimize the error.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we use the classifier to classify the stock, the future stock, if we're going to buy, sell, or hold.
hmm
Yeah. Mhm.
and yeah, most of these is just train predicts, the usual stuff. XG Boost. I think that's something worth noting. We spent some time optimizing the parameter grid. We decided to use grid search. You will see this as we actually do our uh, why did I have this? Oh yeah, I was fixing something. And then it's just holding on like the position manager, which is just the position manager um in test except slightly better. There are a lot of nodes here. A lot of these probably aren't necessary. I do want to have this only for the sake of having it, I guess. Good. Okay, that's not a good explanation. But a lot of these you will see I probably can show this. A lot of them you will see at the end of the week. These are, hello. Yeah, these will be like what you see here. All of the stats. Um, what happened here? Okay. Anyways, a lot just setting allocations. There's a limitation. See if we can trade. See, when like going back to the pyramid point, the higher the price goes, the more volatility we believe we're gonna have because more people are gonna join the market because price goes up. So for higher gains, we just like have higher stop loss. That's it. And then it's just safety net, which is the stop loss thing. And another thing is due to changes in night market, we want sales to happen at these times. So we don't want the price to, go down a hill or whatever. This might be done better. I haven't figured out how. We haven't figured out how. Um, and then the rest actually follows a lot to how test plot was written, except it's way cooler. And there is just more updates. We ended up doing what is this? Rolling window. Is it rolling window? So we have 12 hours of. Okay, we start trading on the 5th of January, and then we have all of the like we train from early October or something. So we have 12 weeks of training, 9 weeks for XG boost training, 3 weeks for validation to find the grid search, and then we group them together for 12 weeks of training again. And then we feed it through the 1 week of testing. And then we do rolling windows. So we pick the next 12 weeks, we remove the oldest week, and we add in the newest week from the most current week. That's just like rolling windows. And yes, that's it. That's probably what the rest of this is. Um, all right, here comes the testing. Surely I remember. Please excuse the fact that it's in downloads. It, I am very terrible at, um, what do you call it? I am very terrible at putting things in their righteous place. And as you can see, I was not prepared for this. But anyways, I'm not proud of myself. Don't worry. Oh, see, I'm so sorry. Anyway, so we decided to use $500,000 in capital, well, 80% limit. And we decided to use these tickers. So just as a note, you will see that we didn't include McDonald's and or Uber, not Uber, Pepsi. And because for these two particular tickers, there's something really interesting where they train. Um, apparently they have some middle day, like per peaks in training. They're just currently running parameters. There is there's this peak in intraday trading that I don't really understand, but this in turn makes our this in turn just breaks our stop loss calculation for some reason. This is something we really wanted to have more time researching, and we thought that having McDonald's and Pepsi would have made it fun, but we never had time. So this is how trading's gonna go. A lot of it is just you can see the profit for every trade. You see the amount of shares they buy, and the portfolio is calculated for the price at that moment. So anyways, and we just keep buying. And yeah, so sometimes we also do pyramids. That is when we see the price goes up like plenty, as you can see here. And like once we reach good profit level, we're happy, we sell. And sometimes there are profit stop losses too. Oh my God, things go by very fast. And like I said, this is a very tentative like way to feed in the data to make it seem semi-realistic. But I think this is how trading would go in real life, except 500 times slower. And I know I know how it looks. We lost 0.5% in week one. This is actually consistent through all of the runs. We don't know why. But what, okay, I did not intend to go there. What we did find out is for some reason we earn 20%. Oh, there you go. Somehow we earned 41.93% through 37 weeks. This is like a this is like one that just ran for a full hour. And we did it over 37 weeks. Yeah. So from the start of January until quite literally the 19th of September, which is 3 days ago. We would have tested it on this week. It would have taken too much time. I feel like this data would be enough for you to see. A few notes that we definitely can improve on. We haven't thought too much. There aren't a lot of active positions normally, and the capital util the capital util I can't spell. The capital util is quite low. So we can definitely put more money into each of our stocks. We only decide to put anywhere between 12 and 18% of our capital, and then 75% of that if we pyramid. Apparently, we don't need that much, so we can use more capital. That's something we need to tweak. Um, we end up paying $18,000 in fees. These are captured by the upper constraints, if you haven't remembered. Turns out it's not a lot. It's only 8% of the profit. Which is really surprising. I thought it would be like 40% of it. We did make sure that we don't do look ahead bias. You will see a lot of shifts, back shifts, and forward fills, backward fills, whatever. We made sure that to the best of our abilities that there's no look ahead bias, and we hope that's not the case. And I guess that's one last thing I want to say, because oh my gosh, late. I don't know how we did. I will be real with you to everyone who's watching this video who may or may not, be particularly enthusiastic about this. I don't know how this happened. And I just want to
Um,
say
yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah.
that,
I
yeah,
want
yeah.
to add that also we didn't take in consideration um the percentage that's taken from the company, like the commission,
Oh,
right?
yeah, yeah. That was considered. That was considered.
Uh,
Yeah,
okay.
I did figure that out later on, but it
Okay.
was in the test one, yeah. So we tried to
Yeah.
consider all possible commissions.
Yeah.
So even the SEC fee and the FinTech
Okay.
fee.
Okay.
So it turns out,
Mm.
yeah, that's why I'm so surprised that it's only 8.7%. I'm like, huh?
Yeah.
I'm surprised too, trust me.
Yeah.
But that just goes to show how much like we are both like all three of us are really disconnected, but also really connected, as you can see. Like we like it's such a fast moving project
Mm.
over like 1 week, and we learned so much, and it's it's been a hella chaotic week. And well, if oh, it's not here. Yeah, still running. Just to show you that we actually do make profit and we're not lying. We do make profit. But and this is only like week three, by the way. So, but yeah, like I said, that is like the most obvious proof on what I've been trying to say. This has been a really hectic week, and I'm really proud of all three of us. And yeah, we made 41% profit. I don't know how that happens. We're not supposed to make 41% profit. Quite funnily enough, the Raleigh was like, "How do you make 41% profit? We're only supposed to make 16%. This guy looks so fake." And it's true. I wouldn't know either. But there you go. And I think we accounted for a lot of stuff. Slippage is something we can't account for. That's why we try to accommodate it for use by using Hyperliquid. Honestly, I would go back to the slide, to a documentation. I think it's obvious at this point that if we pick Meta and, they're gonna trade a lot. That's not news. So that's that. Once again, I just want to say thank you to all my teammates, and there you go. You guys want to say anything else? Because I think I think this is insane. I'm gonna be real
Yeah,
with you.
I
I
feel
This
like
is
on
insane.
this project we all three worked a lot. We've been meeting every day and just working in the library. So yeah, it was great working with you both. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, and
And
if anyone wants to see our progress and what we were doing on each day, our meeting minutes are also linked to documentation. You can take a look, and proof that we did meet up in person. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
hmm and oh yeah, and to our beloved Ian Storms at this point, quite frankly, without VWAP, I don't think it would have been this successful, even though I think we VWAP's
Mm,
a bit
yeah.
VWAP is really good.
yeah.
I can't make this up. VWAP is amazing compared to like close or open. Like it considers a market, like it captures the market essence very well.
Mhm.
So if this is not a blog post, go buy Polygon. That's our blog post.
Yeah, choose Polygon.
Yeah,
Go
so
Polygon. Hmm.
I think this is probably a good point to wrap it up.
Yep.
Hmm.
Thank you so much for watching, and
Yep.
you have a good day.
Yeah, thank you.
Yay. We make
Bye.